Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Justin Whitowich, Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at Borshoff, and your host for today's episode of The Mindful Bullhorn, where we connect with leaders about all the impact that their brands are having on the world. Today, we have a great guest for you, Ting Gootee with TechPoint. TechPoint's mission is to accelerate the growth of Indiana's digital innovation economy. Really looking forward to this. Let's get into it. Hey Ting, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, yeah, looking forward to jumping into our conversation. I always like to ask, when it comes to what you're bringing to life and what you do at TechPoint, thinking way back or as far back as you need to, what is your first memory of tech really making an impact on your life?
Whoa. That's living in memory lanes for sure. I'm old enough to remember the days, my college days, where got my first computer. Was a big mammoth of a machine. I don't think it was connected to the internet back then. I was sitting in the tiny dorm, mostly using the type of papers and go to a different place and have it printed out.
Yeah.
But even before that, I remember high school, kind of tapping into the PC era was, I don't know if you remember the days you had to remember how to type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I spent an entire summer in the typewriter learning how to type.
Yeah.
So that's kind of not so much digital, but leading into the digital.
So early in your career and in your life, what really drew you to a career in tech, serving on boards and leading companies within the tech ecosystem? What drew you to that?
Yeah, so most of my career up to this point has been primarily in the startup and venture space. That's a enormous amount of new technology or happening or being trying to go to market, get customer traction. That's really I was lucky enough to get into the early days of venture capital, at least in our community, really saw the really nice rise over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Had an opportunity to work with thousands and thousands of startups, and many of them are tech startups. And so even though I still don't know how to code these days, but I knew enough to know how to build tech product, what's important, how to go to market with it, what are a lot of barriers I can imagine in terms of driving innovation forward, particularly for tech founders. So that's really kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And when TechPoint opportunity opened up, I was always an admirer of all the community work they've been doing, particularly around all the tech talent initiatives, be able to bring the corporate community into the bigger tech conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because when you read about tech, a lot of it's including the mental image you have of Silicon Valley, the still today is Silicon Valley, and then for here is what's on the HiBJ news headline. It's so-and-so company raised around. That's what you read about, specific to tech. But tech really means so much more, particularly in the corporate environment. A lot of big companies doing great things, very innovative. So as a continuation of the digital transformation journey that all of us have been on for the last 2 or 3 decades, we just don't talk about in that lens. So this has been really intriguing, a lot of learning and getting to know what stakeholders care about around tech innovation. Going out beyond the tech startup normal realm has been very, very fulfilling.
So going back to something that you said, working with a lot of startups over your career, consulting, advising, boards, etc., is the core behind that just really wanting to see founders and startups succeed and just help grow the ecosystem in Indiana and draw talent? Is that what's really behind it, the heart of it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we knew for the longest time Indiana has really all the key ingredients. We got the researchers, we got inventors, we got the community who really want to help. We always struggle with this, why do we see more, right? In terms of, and to me, I got into this venture world, particularly in this community, of all things, 2010. We all remember what happened in the great financial crisis. So it was major market dislocation. Being entrepreneurial that we are, when there's a market disruption, is always present opportunities. So at the point of time, at that time, just to be clear, I did not grow up thinking I'm going to be entrepreneur, right? I did not. I don't think for my good part of my all the way through college, if you asked me what venture capital is, I didn't have a clue. I mean, that was not something that I was taught in school. But when the market opportunity, market disruption created an opportunity, namely a point of time, it just was most visible piece. You remember it was overnight, the Wall Street went like this. The banks are not loaning. The investment bankers, asset managers going out of business. Lehman Brothers, for those of you who remember that, that's still a big name in the asset management business. All of a sudden, it was a lot of startups, just the entire capital market dried up. And survival becoming a real issue.
Yeah.
And at that point in time was literally trying to solve the market gap, which led to the revolution. Okay, building a startup is more than capital. There's also the knowledge gap, right? And then you looked around and says, despite all these ingredients, how do we fill not only the capital gap, but also the knowledge gap, which led to all the consulting work, the strategy, and the structure that led to the creation of Elevate Ventures to solve those two pieces.
Yeah, and I want to get back to Elevate Venture and talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I want to just get into your early life a tiny bit. And I know that you came to the U.S. from China, and you studied at Indiana University and then pursued post-secondary at Purdue. So first of all, what brought you to the U.S. from China, and then what compelled you to stay in Indiana and become a Hoosier?
Yeah, great question. Growing up in Asian culture, education was always the big thing. It was just ingrained. I always say feel like I'm more belong to the boomer generation here, where we were a little bit of a generation behind, where, the way you gain opportunity life, the most very celebrated pathway was education. Yeah. So growing up, going to college was never a question mark. It was always that's your door to opportunities. I think still is today for a lot of us. And while in college, I had the opportunity, I was a liberal arts major. Again, didn't know all these, but had the opportunity to come to the U.S. for a summer, really kind of opened my eye for the opportunity here. Yeah. And that's made me decide I want to learn more about culture, U.S. culture. Didn't know what I wanted to do back then, but I figured grad school, along the education pathway, grad school was a viable pathway, and then also I wasn't gonna have my parents to pay for it, right? Unlike today's kids. So I did the normal route. You apply for a bunch of grad school, you get a full ride scholarship. I was fortunate Purdue was willing to offer me one, and pack up your suitcase, and you land in the middle of nowhere. And a year later, on the summer, even though I was terribly homesick, I decided instead of going home for the summer, I decided to stay and take a class. And back then it was called Cranner School. Today it's called Mitch Daniels Business School. And I remember vividly, I took 2 summer classes. I was the only elective I was able to take because that was not a business major. One is macroeconomics. It was hard. I don't know half the time what we were talking about. The other one was marketing strategy. And in both classes, I was ended up in groups in my future husband-to-be. So that's how I met my husband. Okay. He grew up in Southern Indiana. He was a proud Hoosier by birth. He went back to school and got his MBA, and the rest, you say, rest of history. The rest is history.
Yeah. We're so excited you stayed in Indiana.
Thank you. I'm being the proud Hoosier by choice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who have been some of the tech leaders or tech companies who have inspired you along the way in your journey across tech in Indiana?
Yeah. I'm going to answer this a little slightly differently. This kind of goes back in my venture investing world, roots where, in hindsight, I was really fortunate. I ended up spending 13 years in venture capital in an emerging market called Midwest and Indiana. Ended up spending 13 years learning, doing the upmarket, meaning a lot of deals are getting funded, it's high volume, a lot of more capital gone into historically, has never been that way before. We'll see whether it's going to happen again or not. And also, I spent my 13 years during the time of industry where venture really opened up in terms of what it means to be a venture capital. Do you remember the days? I mean, there was no course called venture capital.
Right.
Right. You didn't know as a founder.
Right.
What are you looking for? Right. It's so because so much capital has gone into the venture market since 2010, since the great financial crisis, all of a sudden venture capitalists are similar to other service providers. They have a brand they need to build.
Yeah.
They're competing for business with top founders. One of the ways they've been competing with very effectively is open up the black box and tell folks, here's what I'm looking for. Here's my investment thesis. Here's how I look at market opportunities. That in a way really created a lot of knowledge sharing, education pathways that never existed before. I remember I used to tell my analysts, I used to Google. I mean, what does it mean, right? And unfortunately, the Google provide a lot of answers that did not exist before. They used to exist in people's heads. Now it's more online, and today you can ask ChatGPT a lot of things. It can give you a lot more answers that you never anticipate. But I was fortunate to do that, and I would say, long-winded way to say, there's a few thought leaders in the venture space that really had an impact on me, not only to be a better venture analyst, be a venture, to be a better venture investor. More importantly, it's really how you look at technology landscape.
Yeah.
Overall, what does it mean for the human race, right? Having that more forward-looking, a little more optimistic lens, not just strategic, whether this company can succeed or not, has been. So I would just say the Reid Hoffmans. It started out as how do we scale the company rapidly. That's said over and over again. Then somebody was calling the Reid Hoffman the AI yoga, which is, because they became champions. Once a lot of this tech leaders in particular, once they succeed, they turn their energy into the legacy they want to leave behind, right? Some of them were, how do I live forever?
Right.
I'm not going to comment on that one, but others are literally, what are because they have seen firsthand what technology can impact human lives, so they innately have that very optimistic viewpoint, have desired to drive what's coming next, to make human lives even better in a bigger way.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I agree with your last point. You can tell almost in a tech company's go-to-market strategy and positioning and messaging, which of those two that they are. Are they in it for the human life impact, or is this about the big exit? And so I think some of that is probably more clear to the common consumer than some founders might even know. And the other thing that you said that was interesting, so I built my career working at agencies, and then I did work for a tech startup here in Indiana, and it was a whole new language, right? Being equity backed and all the metrics and all the modeling and forecasting that we're building based on different financial metrics. I didn't know any of that stuff, and it's a little bit embarrassing to be almost in a leadership position at a tech company and having to Google what do all these things mean, and then trying to show up educated.
Why does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. So I totally hear that. Yeah.
But even in the tech startup world, to your comment, I remember in my venture investing days, we always say, well, we're really looking for at the end of the day, the product can be built, the tools can be tweaked, the financial model can be made, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you're looking for that founder who has a strong conviction. Because one thing we know for sure is every startup goes through a near-death experience. It's a question of how many times and how often do you come out of it, and what happens afterwards. Yeah. And I remember having debates or in a healthy conversation. What does a conviction mean in the founder, right? Yeah. Because you want them to be. We even debate as money. Some people come in as, I want to have a big exit. I want to raise this round. I want to be, they know the playbook and they're in for the money. We have this healthy debate. Is that enough? I think at least based on my limited experience, no, it's not enough. Because money inevitably becomes tight, and the moment you can't make a payroll, that's not the moment you want the founder to crumble. So we always have to look for that little sparkle behind the money to say what is the thing that gives you up, get your up day to day every night.
Well, I love what you said about that little sparkle, because I think that motivates a lot of people to want to join a startup, to build based on mission and impact and purpose. And an exit and acquisition comes, and then that sparkle could not all the time, but could go away. You're working for a different company, different mission, different purpose now. So I think it affects employees as well for a startup, and like, do I want to be with this new company? Do I want to start over? And I think a lot of people in the startup community are taking those jobs because just there might be a higher paying job out there for them. There might be a job that's a little bit more safe and risk averse, but they're doing it because of the purpose of that company. And so, the exit and acquisition that comes to go work with a company that has completely different purpose and values and mission, I think is challenging for the employees of startups as well.
For sure, particularly for experienced folks. Folks that have been around the block a few times. They look at, this is X number of my productive years ahead.
Yeah.
Here's one of my legacy to be.
Right.
Right. So that's that's really interesting about our tech community, and it's really true nationally as well.
Yeah. I have heard you introduced a lot as a community builder, right? So what does community building mean to you, and why is that so important in what you do?
Yeah. It's funny, I remember when I took the job, before even I got started, I was meeting with one of my colleagues for coffee, and she asked the question. She had been in a similar role than I was, and she asked me, what kind of job do you think you're taking on? I think she meant really in a very caring way, do you know what you sign up for?
Yeah.
Right. I remember at the time, without even thinking, I just said community building. I remember there's a little bit of both preponderance, but also a little bit shocked, astonished, but an understanding look on her face.
Yeah.
Because I had fortunate, I was in a community-oriented organization role before I took on this role. So the community building is really hard. It's very, very near dear to my heart. So a lot of the community building is reaching out to people, understanding what they care about, and create that common shared purpose and mission and impact. And I think for our state, for TechPoint in particular, is that opportunity to get people rallied around the technology evolution, the digital AI adoption opportunities ahead of us.
Yeah.
Really, that's really can up-level the way we work, the way we live, and the way we get paid higher wages, and grow our state economy, and also prepare our kids and our kids' future.
Yeah.
That community building piece, now I have been in my role 3.5 years, I look back, I used to be, startup community was my tribe, right? Now my tribe is actually bigger, and it's include this innovation and technology, tech innovation opportunities everywhere, every industry, every corner of the street, every community. Having gone through some of the work we're doing at TechPoint, that's very much true and resonating. There's the sparkle everywhere, even in the corporate world. Eli Lilly just became the world's most AI-ready pharma company in the world.
Yeah.
In addition to being the largest medicine company, they're here.
Yeah.
It only took them 2 or 3 years to get there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I will challenge a lot of organizations and companies, whether you're in a startup or a school or even like marketing agency, to think the same way.
Yeah, for sure, we have to. We have to do that to stay relevant, competitive, and keep up. And we are at Borshoff, and I think it's fruitful for us in terms of everything from efficiencies to even offering new services and capabilities as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's jump into TechPoint a little bit more in terms of your mission to accelerate the growth of Indiana's digital innovation economy. How are you doing that? How is Ting doing that? How is TechPoint doing that?
That's like $1 million, $1 billion question, right? Because we know the AI, the productive boom is in the tens of trillions nationwide. And we know Indiana historically has a little bit slow behind in terms of a tech tool adoption. And we are tackling that primarily through talent, innovation, and community building. When we say talent, it's primarily around quantifying employer most in-demand skills.
Okay.
I want to be very specific, use the word skills, not jobs, because we know job titles change. What you do today, from a job title perspective, could be very different. We already know, right? 2 or 3 years down the road, prompt engineer was not a thing. Software development was not a thing. IoT engineer was not a thing. Just go down in history. Data scientist was a thing, but AI scientist, chief AI officer was not a thing until recently.
Yeah.
So having the industry really help industry understand the skills they need from a workforce perspective and translating that skills into our system. I also use the word system very intentionally because from TechPoint's lens, we've been really great at running a lot of programs, and so are a lot of very other organizations around the state. We have a unique opportunity to really change how our education system, entire education system respond to employer demands, right?
Yeah.
Making our system more nimble. Why is it important? Because we know with each major tech adoption curve, the adoption cycle is only getting shorter and shorter. Case in point, the PC era that we went through, most of us took about 20 years to get to mainstream. When I beat mainstream, is the 50% of household use it. A very specific, quantifiable number.
Yeah.
And the internet era took about 12. Right, remember the internet days and the mobile era that took about 6.
Yeah.
So you pick up the theme. Each cycle roughly adoption cycle cut in half. The last era was mobile era. Remember, most of us remember the iPhone did not came onto scene 2012, 13, 10ish.
I think even maybe a bit before that. But
yeah. I remember the flip phones.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the slick iPhone. I remember the Blackberries. They were still using.
I was given one at a previous employer.
And I was like, you're not using that one. I need to get to the iPhone.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I remember I was in government job in 2010. We were using Blackberries before the iPhone. That took about 6 years. So if that trend continues, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Guess how long the AI era would take. Every cycle isn't cut in half. Last mobile era took 6 years.
6 years. So, I mean, do you not think that we're in it already? I mean,
I will argue with introduction of ChatGPT in November 2022.
Yeah,
we're kind of in it.
We're in it. Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. Well, you talked a lot about quantification. How are you quantifying your goal against trying to really create this innovation and digital ecosystem to just help Indiana thrive? Like, how are you quantifying that? What are your challenges and some of your successes?
Yeah, I would say that's both kind of the challenging as well as interesting part of what we do. I keep telling my team at the end of the day, we're trying to accelerate the growth of Indiana's economy using the tech as a transformative power to do so. And that does not happen quarterly or even annually basis. A lot of times what we do directly we can't point to say, if you do X, Y will happen.
Yeah.
Right? We have a lot of hypotheses. We do a lot of data work to test our hypothesis. And the long term kind of how we know we succeeded as a community, as an economy is two primary, in my world, two primary metrics. One is our productivity growth rate.
Okay.
When I took the role, we were definitely behind in terms of, as a state, in terms of productivity growth rate compared to the U.S. national average. I think this last year, we were actually the top 3. We were still trying to figure out what's attributing to that, whether AI has an impact.
Okay.
So and the productivity, I know it can be a little nebulous term. It really just means, in the simplest way, is this is what normally you do with the introduction of tech tools. Will you do it in less time, or you're able to do more, right? I think we'll experience with mobile, with PC, the general trend is, as human beings, when we use a tech tool, we tend to do more, produce more, get paid more. So that's really the simplistic theory behind that. Number 2, related to productivity, is how do you grow economy, which is GDP. Productivity is a big piece of it because people can make 3.5 million people in the workforce here in Indiana. including you and me, everybody in this room, more productive. Overall economy, because we produce out more output, right? That means with the same amount of people, our economy will grow faster, and we all get paid, and we have more, and we all have higher and better standard of living.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Now, you can also ask me, how do you know you lead to productivity growth and economic growth? That's really hard.
Yeah.
That's why in our current iteration, being the driving AI adoption, we're focused on making the system move a lot better. That include Borshoff, for every employer, what are some of the future tech skills or AI skills you believe the rest of the team or all of your team members really need in order to generate the type of revenue you're looking for. So that's every sector and every industry have very specific nuances. That's what makes this a little bit challenging. You also ask successes. I would say, as I get older, success really means different things, and I think that's healthy. And I remember in my venture days, I always thought TechPoint got a lot of press. And I guess I was jealous in a way. Like, how come we do all this and we don't get all the press? We do all this good work. And I remember the high velocity investing work we're doing. I probably didn't say it out loud at the time, but whether we get a news headline was a measure of success, right?
Sure.
And then, then you get later in life, it became, besides news headline, is the audience, the reach, the awards you're winning, those spotlight moments. I think having been in this role for the last 3 years, my lens around what success means really changed. Not to say the spotlights are not important. I think part of what we do building the community is celebrating success, giving spotlights to the people who earned it, who made it, who represent us well.
Yeah.
The more I've been in my role, I was amazed by how many times, it still happens to this day, that I will have a conversation with so-and-so, probably most likely meeting them for the first time. And they will bring up, and goes, oh, TechPoint did this years ago, and that really changed my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's nice.
That, I remember, I even think, okay, that probably also applies to my Elevate days. I remember founders' lives and being changed, whether they tell you or not, whether I realize it or not.
Yeah.
So to me, that's really even though what we do, how do you connect the dots is a little hard, but have people a day in and day out, week in and week out, to give you the feedback, to say, the way you frame this or the thing you did here, even you don't know, even you did not know, changed my life, changed my perspective, got me into sales I did not know, got me into this role, that I did not know the possibility existed. That's really fulfilling.
It's emotional impact, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're helping people grow, change their lives.
Yes.
And I love that. I think, the purpose of this show here is really talking to leaders like you about the impact that your brand is making on the world. And I think that speaks really, really nicely to it. Do you have, in terms of reporting to board or to anyone else involved in your organization, are there any sort of, I guess, like hard metrics around the number of startups or founders that we have helped raise a round or an exit or some sort of metric related to the actual startups?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a ginormous spreadsheet. Most of it was work with Salesforce now that was boom.
Yeah.
You got to lead the tech adoption by an example, but we also, from operating KPI perspective, we still have a ginormous spreadsheet. The number of startups we touch, number of introductions we make, that goes to capital sources as well as talent customers, because that's where we all agree sometimes the best dollar for the startup is customer revenue. And I have a theory that the kind of startup cycle where your initial phase, you really ought to focus on recruiting talent. We do quite a bit of that, and then you got to focus on your customer. Once you figure those two out, capital will follow. That has played true largely over and over again, particularly for successful founders. So we have and both across our talent, innovation, and community, will have, dozens and dozens of KPIs we're tracking.
Great.
Including the reach, startup founders introduction we made, even include talent, the number of partners, number of students we help placing into roles.
I like that. Yeah,
So
that's a huge one, right? In terms of, keeping our best talent in Indiana and just helping them get a start in their tech careers, and that's a beautiful metric, I think.
Yeah. And we have, as I mentioned in my prior role, Elevate, was focused on solving the capital gap problem, solving the knowledge gap problem. And once we at the TechPoint, we have a unique opportunity to solve on top of that, the skills gap problem. What I mean by that is we just talked about how fast technology is moving. Yeah. Inevitably, it's really hard to keep up. So how do you translate all the skills needed into our system, making the system move a little faster? That's a unique skills problem we're trying to solve
for sure.
to make the system a lot more nimble. And then on the experience challenge, I can't take credit for that. The verbiage, gotta give it to our newest VP of Talent Strategies. Was really we're a moment in time where, in part, is because of economic uncertainty, in part is because folks like you are prioritizing technology investment, which means, inevitably, is less priority in terms of investing in entry-level talent.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is students, whether in high school, college, learners, they are looking for opportunity to gain that hands-on experience, but there's not as many available these days. So that's sort of a work-based learning, hands-on experience gap also. We're trying to rally the community to provide.
That's right. I think it's rallying the community. It's rallying, corporate Indiana to just make these opportunities available and, allow people to come in and kind of learn on the job and get that hands-on training. And I mean, it's a big ask, but I think it's really important for the corporate community in the state.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk more about AI. And you wrote a piece, and I believe it was titled something around Indiana can build the nation's most AI-ready economy. Bold. That's big. That's a big statement. It's aspirational. I love it. I'm behind this 100%. Anything I can do to help. However, some might say in our market and others that that's maybe a little bit too lofty. Is Indiana capable of being the nation's most AI-ready economy? So, first of all, how are we going to do that? Two, how are you addressing any has anyone ever said that's big, that's lofty? Are you sure we can pull that off?
Yeah. I got that in reaction from a different lens.
Yeah.
It's more, what do you mean by that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's to your prior question, how do we define success?
Yeah.
Because success can dictate how we're going to get there, in a way. So what I mean by that is not necessarily being the nation, being the place where the gazillion, billions and billions investment dollars I poured into AI foundational companies. That ship, I think we can all agree, that ship has sailed.
Right.
OpenAI, Google, whatever, the big tech's going to continue to invest billions and billions in foundational models, AI data centers, infrastructure, so on and so forth. What I mean for Indiana to be one of the most AI-ready economy in the country is recognizing we have a unique opportunity to apply a lot of AI tools in driving our economic growth.
Okay.
That's where the AI meets the traditional industries.
Yeah.
AI meets the physical industry, the world, right? We just talked about Lilly being Lilly is not, it's the world's largest medicine company. That's its primary business. But it has recently intentionally became the world's most AI-ready pharma company for a reason, right? Continue to be on cutting edge, remain the world's largest medicine company.
Yeah.
So applying all the AI knowledge and skills and into our economy, make our people ready. I think that people readiness is a big piece. Company ready is a big piece. When I say ready, both in terms of mindset, right? Most of the companies in tech in particular has been on this digital transformation journey for however many decades.
Yeah.
At least 2, probably 3. not everybody's on the same page. We're still at different points of their journey.
Yeah.
And then having the companies and really embrace that mindset, empower to use the tech tools and AI tools to be more competitive, first and foremost, and two, drive new product and service and growth opportunities, as you said, for your agency.
For sure.
I will argue that's every company's job,
Yeah.
right? There's recognizing the different journeys, and we need to equip the workforce, including the pipeline, be ready to take that on. Those are important.
100%. How is AI going to change the workforce?
That's another billion-dollar question. We already know. The good news, again, is we just came out for a conversation internally. We talked about quite a bit. It's the hard part is about predicting the future. There's always in that back of our mind says, what if we're wrong, right?
Yeah.
What if we say, yeah, it's just the workforce is looking like this, ends up being this. A perfect example, when our researchers within CICP, he always liked to quote is when Steve Jobs announced iPhone on stage 10 years ago, not that long ago, a little bit more.
I think a little bit more than 10.
12, 13 years
something
ago.
Like, that sounds all right. Yeah.
And nobody in the audience said, oh, there goes the taxi industry.
Right. That's interesting. Just so much farther downstream than anyone can even predict.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are, that's why part of our strategy is to make our workforce system a lot more nimble.
Yeah.
Part of our job is to even help employers to understand. Because if we ask you the question today, says, what does your hiring plan look like in the next 3 years?
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, most of them don't have a really good answer, rightfully so, right? Particularly in the tech space. Other than the typical, I know I need marketer, I know the finance person, I may need to add a few more AEs. But if I ask the question, what skills do those people need, particular tech skills or AI skills people need? You probably don't have an answer yet, and that's okay.
Right.
So that's part of our the unique work we can bring to the table is not only kind of help the employers tease out what a skills mapping will look like a little more granular level, aggregate to the state level, and which empowers not only higher ed and K-12 higher institutions, but really have a shared language for all of us, and also empower all of our talent enablement companies, whether you're private sector or for nonprofit sector, so we can all train for the same skill sets that we know the industry are mostly needing.
You make a really good point when you say, if you ask me that question, I mean, if I had an answer for you, I would probably just be making it up because I don't know. And there's this interesting balance in our industry and probably most industries. It's like, what should we be protecting in terms of human capital and what comes out of our hearts and minds? That's what's original about that, what's special about that, how are we solving problems as humans versus what is AI capable of, where is there overlap, how does it change talent pipeline and workforce? And I don't know, like I'm in this camp that I want to embrace AI. There's so many benefits to it. And, whether it's our creative team, our media team, our analytics team, our strategy team, we all have different use cases for it, and we're all embracing it in different ways. And I'm a complete adopter of AI, and so is Borshoff. But at the same time, like, I don't know why, but I want to, protect us as humans and what we've been doing in the advertising industry and the marketing industry for decades and decades, century, and so it's like it's hard to have the right answer for that in terms of what AI takes and what humans continue doing. And so going back to your point about where are we in the AI era, it's like, well, I think we're just getting started. We don't know. I don't know.
And we're in this together. I mean, for advertising industry, I remember for a while it was TV, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened when online, the digital online became a medium? That was a big disruption.
Oh, for sure.
And now, and then remember then the social was a big, more and more digital channels came online. All of a sudden it's not just creative anymore. We have these ways we can reach people in a very different nuanced and targeted way.
Yeah.
That was a big moment. I will also say I agree with you. I mean, it's part of the reason I like to go listen to you asked about the tech leaders, and because they have ambition to change the world. They believe technology can serve the world better in a much bigger way than we ever imagined. But if you look back in history with each tech adoption curve,
Yep.
there's always net new jobs created in the long run.
That's a good point.
In the long run.
Right.
Those are different set of jobs. Nobody can predict what those are, but they're also, for each adoption curve, there's always short-term disruption, right? We as a human race experience all that when folks move from farming into factories.
Right.
That was horrible living conditions,
Right.
and then so I think we as a human race have shown a lot of ingenuity, show a lot of resilience. We've shown a lot of ability to deal with uncertainty, even though it was very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think we believe we can do it better. I think we have that belief we can get there.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you. It's like similar to our researchers. We don't really want to take the job predicting the future, but what if we're wrong, right?
I know.
So just embrace it with come in and being there with us. Embrace it one step at a time because we're in this together.
One step at a time. I think, yeah, that's a really good. That's a good strategy and just good path forward. That makes it, I think, easier for people to understand one step at a time. How can we improve? What can we learn? And we'll see where this takes us.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, a couple more questions and we can wrap up here. What are you most excited about heading into 2026? And we're a few months away, but we're in Q4, so what's exciting you?
Well, this gonna sound kind of continue on our AI theme.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know. I am excited about Indiana making potentially a pretty major push around AI adoption. We as a community.
Yeah.
Which a lot harder work ahead, but I think, having the year three of the ChatGPT large language model era now, and we can pretty much agree that a lot of tools can be really helpful to us in our daily lives. And we also have now seen the impact, at least on some of the entry-level talent hiring side. Mm-hmm. We have this moment in time to truly make Indiana drive some system change, make us the most AI-ready economy in the country.
Love it.
No other states are doing this systematically. I just asked that question again. So we truly we have a opportunity for us to be the first one in the nation that's going to help us leapfrog our economic growth.
Love it. Yeah, that's so great. Final question. What impact do you hope TechPoint and the Indiana tech ecosystem can have on the world?
Besides the AI adoption we just talked about,
that's it. Maybe that's what being
maybe I'll do a little. I do think, the tech community, our tech community went through, like a lot of venture community around the country, went through a really robust growth phase the last 15 years. I mean, the last 5 years hasn't been easy, right? It was particularly since the pandemic.
Yeah, right.
So I feel our community can use a little more wins, create a little more energy, maybe even have some dialogue around what is our community identity, right? We're in this different era now. Tech is everywhere. It's not just startups anymore.
Yeah.
And we know the headlines of startup getting funded. It hasn't been where it was, probably not going to go back to where it were. We're still looking for that big exit. I don't have a line of sight. Who would that be? That's depressing in its own way. I know that a lot of founders have been struggling, continue to struggle from both capital raise and exit perspective. I know folks, business owners, entrepreneurs, and it actually does not matter whether you're running a 20 people firm or 200 people firm, or even running a $20,000 global organization. We've been hearing consistently technology adoption pressure is real for everyone.
For sure. Yeah.
So what is that collective identity to enable us to feel like, yes, it can be grinding, but we're making progress. We're going toward a pretty bright future here. I do believe that. So it's how do you help folks navigate to some extent, even some of the political noise that's out there, whether it's social or political noise that's out there, just so that we can focus on what's relevant for everyone, which is I want to have a sense of identity. I want to get to engage with my community, whatever that means, right? And I want to work productively. I want to have a happy, prosperous family life.
Yeah.
And I think that's still largely true, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
I think we as a community, maybe that goes back to rather than focus on the headlines, because headlines can be really noisy and depressing in its own way. I feel like next year or even now, we have an opportunity to create the identity for us, and they can really help us to focus on a bigger goal that's going to uplifting everyone.
Well, uplifting everyone. Well said. I mean, that's an incredible impact that any brand can make on the world. So, great answer. And Ting, thank you so much for the conversation today. I really enjoyed it. I know our audience will enjoy it as well. So, can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the work you do.